In my 16 years of taking Amtrak, I have tried to get to one station in particular longer than all others. Cincinnati, Ohio is the largest metropolitan area in the state of Ohio, but they only receive 3 trains a week in each direction. On Tuesdays, there aren't even any trains here. It's only 6 days a week service between Chicago and Washington, D.C. and New York City via the Appalachian Mountains on Amtrak's Cardinal train. For a city so big, to have only 6 trains a week, you can imagine that ridership here is pretty low. Toledo, Ohio, Cleveland, Sandusky, and Elmira all had more riders in 2023 than Cincinnati. But we have landed in Cincinnati at the end of a Sunday. I flew down here because it was the easiest way of making my dream of catching a train out from Cincinnati Union Terminal happen. This is a station that has so much history. It has survived the end times of passenger trains in America several times. It has managed to survive mostly because it has become a museum more than a train station. Amtrak wasn't even using this station through the 80s. They came back in the 90s after deciding that they deserve more for the city of Cincinnati than just a shack by the river to catch a train. We have the Cincinnati Union Terminal, the facade of which, as soon as I saw it decades ago, I said, I want to go there and get a train. But it's so difficult because I would have to spend most of a day around Cincinnati, either when I arrive or when I depart, like tonight. If I'm taking the eastbound train to the East Coast, I'm doing so in the 3 o'clock hour. Today, we're going to do the slightly more tolerable 1 a.m. hour departure westbound to Chicago. We're in Amtrak's Viewliner roomette, specifically the Baggage Dorm car, the newest sleeper car in Amtrak's system. I can tell you, we'll still manage to have a good night on the train, wake up in Indiana in the morning. First, we have to go take a look at this fantastic station here in Cincinnati. Opened in the early 30s, Cincinnati Union Terminal had only through the middle part of the 20th century to fulfill its goal, to transport people by rail to and from the Queen City on the Ohio River. What I'm going to see inside is as cool to me as the first time I went into Grand Central in New York City. It's just so steeped in history and, to me, mystery, but to a community, this is their train station. And that's really cool, even if the trains only come in the middle of the night. Let's check it out. With Art Deco influence across its arched front face, a long parkway and fountain all combine to make one's anticipation of travel ripen, even before you set foot inside. For which I was very early, arriving 50 minutes before the midnight opening hour of the front doors. A true intermodal facility at the time it was built, personal vehicles and cabs were permitted driveways in the wings wrapping around the stepped front fountain centerpiece. Those wings now are part of the museum's exhibits. About making the Cardinal a daily train. Everyone agrees it's the right thing to do, but you've got a lot of complex railroad problems with that route going daily. What I can say about Cincinnati and rail service in Ohio is that they are trying to get a train from Cincinnati to Columbus to Cleveland with Dayton in the middle. They call it the D, 3 C's and a D, I think. That doesn't sound right. Anyway, it's that line, and it's been in talks to get going. There's support for it, but there's also opposition, like everything else in America. And everyone just agrees that, well, if we just drive, it's simpler. But we have places like this that we deserve to be using for the betterment of our city. I mean, there's only 6 trains a week leaving here, and they're all in the middle of the night, and you can't enter until midnight. I guess they intend on people having more lives than just taking public transit, walking around and calling it a vacation, right? Of course. You're right. Why didn't I take that bus? The hardest part about getting a train out of Cincinnati is if you come in eastbound, you are coming in the 3 o'clock hour if you're on time. And that's too late to just go and buy a hotel room for one night that's almost over. It's also too early to go get breakfast or do much of anything. Like, it's best if you were staying here for a few days, which would be required if you're going to return to the east. If you were going further west, you could just get on the next night's train from here. But you still have to walk around for most of the day or find somewhere to have your bags. I'm honestly surprised they don't have a rental car lot around here. That would probably entice some more people to come out here. There's still some chance that Cincinnati is a city that will keep coming up, and then they still got this great station that they can use if they want to give people the way to move around more than they already do in just their cars. It once accommodated dozens of trains per day, but has seen Amtrak drop all services but the lowly Cardinal and its 6 trains per week. Gone are the original platforms and passenger concourse that extended back from the head house. What's left is a collection of history museums, a glowing array of colors, rich wood tones, and a feeling not unlike an old movie palace. The station's architect was said to have been inspired by Helsinki Central Station, according to the author Brian Solomon. Where Amtrak's place is among this unique setup was less than clear to me before I came here. I knew there was an adjacent room that housed Amtrak passengers up in the middle of the night to catch a train, but whether it was part of the original design of the station was less clear. Having found the passenger waiting area to the right of the Omni Theater, I can safely say that it is a historic room, but that Amtrak has reconstructed the space which gives passengers access to the very humble platform below. There are some intriguing leftovers from past eras of awaiting passenger trains, and their placement combines with the inconveniently late hour spent awake to trick the mind into believing you're in a historic dreamscape. At least, that's what I hoped would prevail and get me on board into my roomette sooner than later. It's honestly as amazing inside as it looks on the outside. I'm glad that they use this as a museum, but they deserve to have more trains running through it. That's the purpose of the building. It feels like I'm in a dream, like a lucid dream, where I can move around a really big, awesome space, but I'm in it for the wrong purpose. Like, oh yeah, a train's just gonna come to this museum. Like, no, it was a train station decades ago. Why would you come out in the middle of the night to pick up a train here? That sounds like something out of a dream. I'd taken the Cardinal in coach from Charlottesville to Chicago a few years ago. I recall sleeping well enough in coach, but having 3 extra hours to try to fall asleep with. What we did then, I hope to replicate for under $300 for about 10 hours in a roomette.
The elevator, whoever wants to take the steps can go down there. Just stay right there.
Which for this trip, we lucked out and saw our train 51, the westbound Cardinal, arrive 20 minutes early. Cardinal is a short consist of Amfleet 2 coaches and cafe car, then a Viewliner II sleeper car, and our ride being on the rear of the consist, the CAF-built Baggage Dorm car also being of the Viewliner II series, consisting of half roomettes and half baggage hold. These are Amtrak's newest roomettes. There is luggage storage for suitcases more wieldy than I carry above the hallway. They're the same as those found in Viewliner I cars, but the roomette lacks the in-room toilet that was good enough for everyone's grandparents, generations of rail cars before the Viewliner. The Viewliner IIs instead have a step, and other features being changed in their form factor somewhat since the original series of cars from the 1990s. If you don't like the Superliner locks, you will hate these. Some of the finishes in this car are notably worn out, despite not yet having seen a full 5 years of service. Though the overall motif of the car and each room is a positively modern feeling experience. Our bed was made prior to coming aboard, so I can make a quick escape to attempted slumber amidst the acres of auto rack cars we'll parallel, and the relatively short distance to both Indianapolis and the sunrise that would follow it shortly thereafter. I just feel glad to be in a bed. I'm glad it was a good deal. And I'm glad the Viewliner rooms are so spacious, even if they are these newer style cars without the toilets in the room, which most people really enjoy. This one doesn't seem like it's in too bad a shape. When the daylight hits it, we'll see what its flaws really are. The newest sleeper, that's our bedroom tonight. There is no dining car, so our breakfast the next morning will be from the Flex Dining menu. That latter fact combined with the inconvenient schedule have made for a total fare of just $276 for this night's rolling hotel on the Midwest Plains. The shades inside each room do well to let you sleep in, but I was expecting a lackluster omelet made on the weekend out east and reheated aboard a train in Indiana on a Monday morning, so I woke up early. Waking around Lafayette was a nice sight. I traveled here by car a couple times a couple decades ago. We would walk right over the bridge that stretches over the train platform and shelters, wondering when it would be that we would be picking up the Cardinal. With the longest running time of all Amtrak routes between Chicago and the Northeast Corridor, its departure times seem to only be convenient for Hilltoppers and Hoosiers on the few days it runs. We're maintaining runs of 60 miles an hour as we lace a path up the northwest corner of Indiana. we pass through Monon, the old site of the junction of branches of the Monon Railroad that predated Amtrak, part of which we are traveling today. That service survives at 3 times a week in each direction for cities along this route, most of which have no other Amtrak services offered, and a limited number of coach bus services these days to an ever-dwindling number of stops. Considered for just its endpoints, the Cardinal seems lackluster compared to the Floridian, with traditional dining, and the Lakeshore Limited for its direct-to-New York service from Chicago. The path it takes is one that defies some of the ongoing narratives about the degrees of which passenger rail exists to serve the politically various states in which it remains. In that sense, the Cardinal is a small miracle of a train, and not a bad way at all to spend a morning awaiting lunch in Chicago. Okay, this is the Viewliner shower, the baggage dorm. Oh. Yep, let's see how it is. It is bad. No button. I'm gonna go for it. I mean, they're my feet, and I won't eat with my feet today. Okay, I can probably categorize that as a bad shower. Let me show you why. Yep, that's pretty weak. It looks like this system does not drain onto the tracks. So I'm onto something there. And they're clean. And I didn't have to deal with those bottles. Bar soap is fine. It's the baggage hold right there and the towel that protects the secrecy of the baggage. Your shower's right there. Restroom is open is right there. Restroom that is permanently closed is right here. And these are all roomettes. We are here. And dirty window. Yeah, it's nice. Hey, windmill. That won't close except with the force of God. I like Viewliners a lot. You will feel the ride all night, but I did get a good sleep. So money well spent. From Dyer on, we're effectively into the Chicago Transit empire. A spur extension of the South Shore Line's electrified commuter service is slated to begin operations out here in the coming years. We'll be coming upon Metra's Rock Island District and Southwest Service tracks before long. We're also leaving padding on the schedule, as the extra time set aside for overall slower running through the freight yards of Chicago in the timetable aren't turning out to be as slow as expected today. Our final arrival time on the screen as we pull into Chicago Union Station will tell this story well.
station coming up shortly. Those you needing red cap, once you step out onto the platform, just kindly stand to the center and wait patiently for red cap. Usually come the first class sleepers first, and then they'll come to coach. We ask that you be patient. We're going to pull this train as close as we can to the door so you don't have to wait for the red cap. Again, look around your seat, please. Make sure you have all your personal belongings gathered up, stored away, unplugged. Chicago's Union Station where everyone will exit, coming up shortly.
We had a great ride in from Cincinnati in the terribly late hours overnight and on time through Indiana to make our connections in Chicago. For me, I was bound for another empire builder, but not to make a video this time. Back home! Though I will post a longer form video of this ride and another about the flight to Cincinnati in my time walking around downtown, taking the streetcar, and just perusing the storefronts of Over the Rhine in preparation for being tired on board today's train. Thanks for coming along with me on this one. I'll see you in the next one. Here to be boarding a Lincoln service or Missouri River Runner. First we gotta get rid of this holy bag. To the lounge.
The Lincoln Service Missouri River Runner to Kansas City. Boarding on track 24.